Good morning, students. Students, today we will learn with a new topic in civics. The name of the topic is Fundamental Rights Part 2. So, in the previous chapter, we studied some fundamental rights which were guaranteed by our Indian Constitution. We studied the rights of liberty, equality, and the right against exploitation. In this chapter, we shall also learn about the right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, and we shall get acquainted with the judicial protection available for the fundamental rights. So let's move further. The first right we are going to learn is right to freedom of religion. Now, as we know, India, we know it's an important secular country in the world. We have studied it in the previous classes. But you must be curious to know what the Indian Constitution says about it. Isn't it? Okay. So, it is included in our right to freedom of religion. According to that right, it says each Indian citizen is free to practice any religion and to establish institution for religion reasons. So, any citizen can practice any religion, follow any religion of his choice. In order to broaden the scope of the right to freedom of religion, two things are not permitted. That means two things should not be done. The first one is state cannot impose religious taxes that might be used to encourage a particular religion. That is, our constitution forbids religious taxes. That means from any religion, taxes should not be collected. No money should be collected in case of religion. The second, religious education cannot be made compulsory in educational institutions that receive aid from the state. Next we'll move on to is cultural and educational rights. Now we can see that there is a great diversity of festivals, food and way of life in our country. We all know there is a lot of diversity in our country, India, that is in food, languages and the way we dress. We don't find that in other countries. Okay. You may have noticed the differences in the different wedding ceremonies that you attended. Now, each religion has different wedding functions. They celebrate it according to their rituals. Okay? All these things are a part of the cultures of the different communities. Our constitution has given the different communities the right to preserve their cultural uniqueness. That means each culture, each religion has its uniqueness. It's different from others. Okay? Now, according to this right, people are not only free to preserve their own language, script, and literature, but also make efforts towards their promotion. They can establish institutions for the development of their language. Not only religion, we have so many languages also spoken in our country. Okay, so that's why we say that our country is diverse. Next, we'll move on to is right to constitutional remedies. Now, in case of encroachment of fundamental rights, the Indian citizen's right to get judicial remedies is also a fundamental right. Judicial rights means rights related to the court. This is called the right to constitutional remedies. This means the constitution itself has provided for legal remedies in case people's right get violated. That means, see, everyone has its own right. You can't take away the rights from any person. Each and everyone has the right which is given in the constitution. So it becomes a constitutional duty of the courts to protect the rights of the people. Sometimes the rights that are guaranteed to us by the constitution may get encroached upon and we are not able to exercise our rights. Sometimes some people say this is not your right, but it's not like that. The Constitution has given us the rights. It's our duty and our rights. Okay. This is called infringement of our rights, means breaking laws, breaking rights. We can't do that. The court considers our complaint. If there is any complaint which has to be solved in the court, so what does the court do? The court considers our complaint. They investigate it, and in case it is convinced that rights have indeed been infringed upon and injustice has been done to the agreed individual, the court gives an appropriate verdict. So in the court, what happens? Any problem you have, that has to be solved. Okay. Let's move further. Now next we are going to learn is about the writs as constitutional remedies. Now courts have powers to issue various kinds of writs to protect the rights of the citizens. Okay. There are 5 types of rights. They are habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto and certiorari. We learn them one by one. First, habeas corpus. Its meaning is to have the body. It's issued to protect the personal liberty of an individual against the arbitrary action of state or private individual. Each individual has the right to live on his own. Next, second, mandamus. Mandamus meaning command. We command. It's issued against a public authority or an officer and inferior courts for enforcing legal rights only. It cannot be issued against president and governors. Now, in order of the courts, the Supreme Court or the High Court, the commanding the government to perform an action that is the duty to perform on public interest. That's mandamus, that is to command. Next is prohibition. Prohibition, the word itself means to restrain or to stop. It is issued by higher courts to the lower courts. Higher courts, Supreme Court to the local courts. Okay, we know there are Supreme Court, local court. Okay, so it's issued by the higher courts to the lower courts to keep them within the limits. That means to provide or to prevent a subordinate court for existing is jurisdiction. Next is certiorari. That is, meaning is law. It is issued by higher courts to quash the order of a lower court. Difference between prohibition and certiorari is that prohibition is issued at an earlier stage and then certiorari comes after that. Next is quo warranto. What is your authority? The meaning is, it is issued to ensure that the person holding a public office is qualified to hold that office. That means to restrain a person from acting in an office to which he is not entitled. Means that person should be qualified to take away that job or that authority. Next is, now there's a column given to you. Is the reaction of this government official right or wrong? Now there's an example. An officer tells a woman who presents all the documents for getting the benefits of a scheme for destitutes. Destitutes is person who don't have their home and food, and they are given home, they are given a particular place to live and food. You don't like a destitute and refuses her the benefits of the scheme. You can't refuse when that woman has all the documents related to that benefit of scheme. She has to be given food and she has to be given home. You cannot refrain by telling you can't get it. In this instance, do you think the woman's right has been infringed? Yes, the right has been infringed. Means she's not getting the right which she has to get. She has all her documents, right? And that benefits, there is a particular scheme which has to be given to her. So here we see that the rights are violated or infringed. She's not given that right, which is wrong. Next, we'll move on. Because the fundamental rights are thus protected by the courts. All these rights are protected by our courts. Citizens are able to exercise their rights. Then only citizens will be able to get their proper rights, because what happens is that a certain problem is solved, and if there is a person who's not getting the rights can get his rights. Okay, no one can take away your rights. Citizens are able to exercise their rights. They can fulfill their roles as alert, responsible and active citizens. So it's upon us also that we should be active. While considering fundamental rights, we also need to remember our duties. We have our rights. We should use it properly. It's our duty to use the rights properly and accordingly. Okay? We should not violate them. So, here we end with this chapter. In our next chapter, we shall study our fundamental duties. Okay? So, here I end with this video. Thank you for listening, children. Goodbye. Take care.